Hi viewers, welcome to Akshaya Vlogs and Crafts. Today, let's see the next chapter. In the years that followed, Maragada Amma became fully immersed in family life. Her husband, Narasimhan, became a lawyer and she gave birth to many children. Her first pregnancy ended with a stillborn child. She was less than 13 years old at that time. A few years later, she gave birth to Guru Swami, born 1917, Shankar 1919, Kalpagam 1921, Ganapati 1923, and Sheshatri 1924. 2 days after the birth of Sheshatri, she had another vision of Muruga. She went into a kind of trance and ended up singing over 600 verses, extolling Murugan in the form of Andi, a beggar. Her flow was stopped only when she heard the cry of a baby, begging for food. Apparently, Sheshatri had been crying for food for quite some time before Margadama became aware of his needs. The nurse who was attending to her scolded her for neglecting her baby while she was absorbed in her devotional singing. This precipitated a minor crisis in the family because the nurse told Margadama's mother-in-law, Kaveri Amma, about the event. Apart from the issue of neglecting the baby, Kaveri Amma complained that singing songs that praised God as a beggar would end up making the whole family beggars. She also said that since Margadama was in a state of ritual impurity, having just given birth to a baby, she should not be composing songs in praise of God. Kaveri Amma collected all Margadamma's songs, hid them, and made her take an oath that she would not sing songs on Murugan again, or even talk about him. Being a dutiful daughter-in-law, Margadamma took the oath because she knew that she always had Murugan in her heart. She did not have to promise that she would not think about him or be aware of him internally. More children followed. Venkataraman was born in 1926, but a couple of days after delivering him, she developed septicemia because part of the placenta had stayed inside her and became infected. Her doctor said that she needed an operation to remove it, but Maragadamma declined an anesthetic and remained perfectly still, quiet, and conscious while the doctor removed the infected material. She had apparently developed an ability to suspend body consciousness and be unaware of pain, or at least be completely unaffected by it. More children followed. Kamakshi was born in 1928, Padma in 1929, and in 1936 Vasudevan. Padma became something of a child prodigy. She began composing songs when she was only 3 years old and became a devotee even at that age of the Shankaracharya of Kamakoti Pida. She went blind, regained her sight after the Shankaracharya intervened and sent her to a doctor who restored her sight. But in 1936, she passed away at the age of 8 while she was presenting a homemade garland to a Devi statue. One son, Vasudevan, died of a serious illness. Shankar had some sort of accident that made him mentally retarded and he died in 1940. The others grew up and were successful in their chosen fields. None of these family dramas dented Margadamma's equanimity since the inner vision of Lord Muruga was always with her. Songs would come to her in the usual way, but she refused to sing them out loud, even after her mother-in-law, Kaveri Amma, passed away in 1930 after a long illness. Kaveri Amma had made her take the oath of silence on Muruga, on her husband, and on her children. She feared that if she began to sing again, something bad might happen to her husband and children. she complained internally to Muruga about this situation, and soon after that she felt his presence within her disappear. She implored him to return and give her darshan again. After a few days, she heard a voice within her saying, "Why are you searching for me outside? Am I not inside you? Look within and you will see me." He introverted her vision and immediately lost herself in an ecstatic vision in which she became aware that Muruga was everywhere, not just inside her. When she returned to her usual state, she said that it reminded her of the occasion when Krishna opened his mouth and his mother Yasoda saw the whole universe within him. In March 1948, Maragada Amma went on a trip to Sri Sailam for Sivaratri to please one of her relatives who had a desire to go there. On her return, she became slightly ill, a condition that persisted for several weeks. In May, as she was walking down the staircase in her house, carrying one of her grandchildren in her arms, she slipped, fell, and fainted. She was put to bed, and doctor who was brought in to attend on her declared that she had a heart attack. Two of Maragadamma's sons, who had become doctors, returned home to help with her treatment. She was unconscious. Her pulse was beating very slowly, and her general condition was deteriorating to the point where her relatives began to fear for her life. And now, and this is where the story starts to get very, very weird. We have to leave her unconscious in bed for a moment to give some background information on events that had happened elsewhere in a few years ago. There was a yogi named Ramakrishna who lived in Pinnavasal, Tamil Nadu. He came from a Telugu Brahmin family that had settled in Tamil Nadu. His Paramaguru was the famous Sadasiva Brahmendra. Ramakrishna had stayed in the Avadiyar temple for 12 years doing Devi Upasana with the Navashari mantra. He did severe tapas and apparently acquired many siddhis. At one point, he had married, but he had never lived with his wife. His wife was deeply devoted to him and wanted to serve him and be with him all the time. She accepted that they were never going to be man and wife, but she thought that she could at least be his devotee and serve him to the best of her ability. However, whenever she came anywhere near him, Ramakrishna would drive her away, saying that he didn't want her to be with him. Driven to a state of despair by these continuous rejections, the wife uttered a curse that her husband would have to be born as a woman and suffer as much as she had done herself. Ramakrishna was well versed in Sanskrit. He had many devotees and he traveled widely all over India. Though he was a guru in his own right with many followers of his own, he had a desire to take sannyasa. He went to Rishikesh in 1942 to ask Swami Sivananda to initiate him. When Swami Sivananda refused his request, he went back to Pinnavasal to resume his tapas. Having failed in his quest to take sannyasa, he initiated himself. In 1943, shortly before he passed away, Ramakrishna's Paramaguru Sadasiva Brahmendra appeared before him and told him that he would have to take another birth to fulfill his wife's curse. Ramakrishna begged him to spare him from his curse, but Sadasiva Brahmendra told him that since his wife was a very devout woman who had gained power of her own, the curse would have to take effect one way or another. Sadasiva Brahmendra did tell him, though, that as an alternative option, he could enter a living woman's body in his subtle form and go through the ordained sufferings. Ramakrishna decided that he would try to take the second, rather busier option. He took Mahasamadhi in 1943, having already informed his devotees that they should not seal his Samadhi shrine. A tube of some sort was left connecting the interred body to the outside world. Now we go back to Maragadamma, who, when we left her, was lying unconscious in her family home in May 1948, 5 years after Ramakrishna had been buried. Late one evening, Maragadamma's heart beat and pulse completely stopped. At that same moment, Sadasiva Brahmendra appeared to Ramakrishna, pointed to Maragadamma's body, and told him, "Now is the time for you to enter this pure and holy body of a saint. This body has been a temple of Lord Muruga for more than 24 years. Such a holy body will not be available to you at any other time." Let's see in the next chapter. Thank you, viewers. Bye bye, viewers.